Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new DopePope figure. He has recently released a very cool line of dinosaurs. This time we have something that's not a dinosaur, but we've got a classic nonetheless, because we have the Dimetrodon, and man is this thing ever incredible. I'll state right now, I have 4 of his new models, and this is my favorite of the bunch, because I am a huge fan of Dimetrodon in general, and the way he's created this version is so unbelievably perfect when it comes to like that vintage portrayal. I couldn't possibly imagine a better looking version of an old school Dimetrodon anywhere. This thing is incredible in person. Like the day that I got this package in the mail, I spent a significant amount of time just honestly overlooking this entire figure, but also showing it off. Like I instantly had to take it to my son and show him this as well, because it is just such an unbelievably beautiful Dimetrodon. Definitely, I would say maybe my favorite model that DopePope has created so far, which is really saying something. So, without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Dimetrodon, look at how awesome that looks. And on top of just generally the overall shape and appearance of the Dimetrodon, look at how beautiful the skin texture is. That scale detail pops so nicely, and you can see quite a bit of variation to the sizes and style of the scales throughout. You'll see some extra material here that I have to pull off. That's something that's very common with figures like this. But I did want to state that it's not like a defect or anything. It's just that I haven't removed them yet. I usually do that when I go to paint them, because I like to show them to you how they arrive and how they show up, so you have a very good idea of what yours would look like if you purchased one. But you can see the nostrils sculpted out. You can also see some really nice fine detail there all around the eye itself. The mouth is open on our Dimetrodon, and look at how genuinely sharp those teeth look. They look absolutely ferocious in the best way possible. We can see a tongue sculpted out there on the inside of the mouth. Really nice texturing to the tongue, and then if you turn it, you can see kind of some detail. It's hard to see it because the model is already a really dark tone, so like finding a way to get the light to shine on the inside of the mouth is really rough. We'll just have to take a look at it once it's painted. Maybe it'll be a little bit more obvious then. But as you move back here into the neck, you can see all kinds of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff. The Dimetrodon has its head turned slightly toward its right, so you can see again the movement you would expect to see in that area. Again, you can really see the very nice variation to the scales and stuff, like a big cluster of larger scales right here as you lead down toward like the chest, and then as you move down you can see the scales become much more fine but still equally as vibrant. Incredibly impressive detailing. As you move down, you can kind of get an idea of the shoulder blade right there as well. More wrinkling as we move down into the front leg, and then as you lead down into that front leg, you can see super reptilian style scale detail moving down, very kind of lizard-like, I would say. You can also see the toes, each and every toe sculpted out really nicely. The nails, again, having a really beautiful, very genuine, sharp look to them. Moving back up into the stomach, we've got quite a bit of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff down here in the lower part of the stomach. More incredibly vibrant scale detail as we move up here, and you can still see, again, all sorts of varying sizes to the scales as you move along. You've got some more wrinkling and stuff to the skin right there, because the back part of the Dimetrodon is kind of turned slightly, and you can also see how this leg is stepping forward, so you would see like those wrinkles and stuff right there. As you move out into this leg, you can see the knee. You can also make out like kind of like the bone structure, but also the muscle definition and stuff out there through the course of the leg. You again have the really nice rear foot here, and you can see how all of the toes are sculpted quite nicely. The nails again sculpted nicely, and we still have that very reptilian kind of lizard-like style to the scales as you move down that leg. As you move out here into the tail, you can see again all sorts of really impressive detailing moving out. And then of course we've got, at this point, almost like a trademark of these figures, we have that really strong curvature to the tail. Again, something that I definitely can recall seeing Dimetrodon posed with in the past, especially when it comes to older interpretations. Moving along the underside, you can see basically the turns to the body of the Dimetrodon, but also how nice the fine detail is of the underside as well. And then if we turn the Dimetrodon around all the way, You can see the head sculpt again from this side looks really good, just like it did on the first side. Moving back here, you can see some more really nice skin wrinkles and folds and stuff. Even more here with the mouth opening, you can see how the skin is kind of bunching up on the underside of the throat of the Dimetrodon as well. You can see the foot sculpt also looks really good over here. Again, more gorgeous scale detail moving through. And then we move up, we've got the shoulder shining here yet again. Again, as we lead back, you can see the legs are spread further apart, so we have a much better visual of the stomach on this side, and all of the skin wrinkles and folds and stuff, all of the really impressive scale detail throughout. And then we lead back here, you can see how this leg is trailing, again showing the walking motion for our Dimetrodon, and then the curvatures of the tail. If you look at it from up above, you can really see how the body is kind of curved. And then of course we also have the sail area, and you can see the sail area features just as impressive detailing as you see through the course of the body. Again, all kinds of variation to the scales and stuff as you move through the course of the figure, as well as the spines moving through. It has that genuine realistic look to the sail like I would expect to see on a Dimetrodon. And then you can see the same thing again for the opposing side. Once we look over here, it looks absolutely as gorgeous as I've ever seen a Dimetrodon sculpt, as I've ever seen a Dimetrodon sail specifically look. So, oh man, to say I'm excited about this one would be a massive understatement. I cannot wait to get some paintwork on this, so that's exactly the point we are at right now. Let's get this painted up and we'll check it out when it's finished. So I have my Dimetrodon painted up and looking pretty darn cool. So here it is. And you may not like it so much, but I definitely do, because I tried to give it a vintage look and feel. I tried to give it the type of coloration that you might see on an older interpretation of a Dimetrodon, and I actually spent quite a bit of time just kind of researching and looking at older images of Dimetrodon before finally coming up with an idea as far as the coloration that I wanted to give it. And again, at first glance, it may not look like there's actually that much color applied, mostly just greens. Like when you look at it from afar, kind of looks like it's just like almost just the same color green through the course of the figure outside of the sail. But there is actually a ton of work that I put into this, and a ton of variation of color as you move through the Dimetrodon. I feel like you don't even pick up on it probably until you get nice and close, and can maybe pick out the amount of work that I put into the paint apps of this. But there was definitely a lot of work that I put into this one, so I'm really happy with the way it has turned out. Again, I think the final product looks absolutely gorgeous. DopePope knocked this one out of the park. When it comes to these new kind of vintage style figures that he has released, this has got to be my favorite, maybe my favorite DopePope figure overall that he has ever released. I am just completely in love with this Dimetrodon. Again, in my opinion, perfectly resembling like that old school vintage style of Dimetrodon that I know and love from when I was a child. And again, the inside of the mouth also looks super cool once it's glossed up and everything. And the teeth look definitely quite menacing as well. So hopefully you guys like my paintwork. I am, again, really quite happy with this. Sometimes I'm usually pretty happy with stuff, but this time I'm really happy with my paint on this. And again, the sail has that little bit of flashiness that I wanted to include, but I didn't want to go overly flashy, because again, a lot of the time when it comes to older Dimetrodon interpretations, you most often would see them looking kind of flashy in the sail, but kind of dull for the most part when it comes to the rest of the colors. So I tried to give it kind of like the best of both worlds, while still, remaining faithful to that vintage look and feel. So hopefully you guys like my paintwork, but I absolutely adore this Dimetrodon. Now, as far as a size goes for the Dimetrodon, it's definitely quite large for a length from the tail to the snout. You are looking at a little over 12 3/4 inches, or right around 32.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the sail, you are looking at about 8 1/4 inches, or right around 21 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon in the Collect A human being next to our DopePope Dimetrodon, and you can see it's gigantic. Just as I've been saying this entire time, it is definitely a massive Dimetrodon. And then for another, maybe somewhat humorous comparison, we have the Collect A version next to the DopePope version, which you can see. Again, the DopePope version is gigantic next to it. We've also got the chap-made Dimetrodon, which yet again, and as I would expect for pretty much most Dimetrodon figures, it is smaller. And here's a comparison that I feel like should help many people if you are into larger Dimetrodons. We have the AAA Dimetrodon. This is obviously the larger version of it, which is probably one of the absolute most impressive old school style Dimetrodon in existence. But as you can see, the DopePope version is fairly similar in size, honestly. I mean, obviously not quite as large. The AAA version is a little bit bigger, but I would say that I definitely like the DopePope version better when it comes to that vintage likeness. Although the AAA version is awesome, this DopePope version is honestly out of this world. So this brand new DopePope Dimetrodon is fantastic, and when I tell you it's fantastic, like, that is no exaggeration. Especially if you are into that old school style Dimetrodon, you are going to love this. It is far and away my favorite Dimetrodon that I now have in my collection. I just can't even begin to express how much I love this figure. And again, the sculpt is so insanely highly detailed. Like, probably the most highly detailed Dimetrodon I have, especially when you just look through the course of the figure and you see all the skin wrinkles and folds and stuff, as well as the incredible scale detail, very reptilian scale detail, and the variation of the scale detail throughout. It's got to be one of the single most impressive Dimetrodon models that I have ever seen in my entire life, and probably one of the most impressive that I think most people would probably ever see. It is that nicely detailed throughout. I also quite like the pose. The pose is nothing spectacular, but it's very nice and natural, and at the same time kind of gives the Dimetrodon a bit of like a intimidating look, I would say. And also, again, kind of almost like a vintage pose on the Dimetrodon as well. I kind of remember numerous different illustrations of the Dimetrodon back in the day having similar poses to this, so I also quite like that. And the paintwork, of course, was done by me. If you acquire this, it does come unpainted, and you would have to, of course, paint it yourself. But I'm very happy with my paint apps on this. Even though it's not the flashiest paint job I've ever done, I think it looks old school, it looks vintage, and it looks natural. And again, with the amount of time and effort I put into the paint apps of this one, I'm definitely happy with the way it turned out. So in the comment section, let me know what you guys think of this. And of course, if you are interested in grabbing one for yourself, I will include all of the information as far as how you can contact DopePope and check his work out in the description. So make sure you check him out, grab one of these amazing Dimetrodon, and like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.